The cafe window was fogged from the warmth inside and the cold rain outside when she said it, softly, like a secret meant only for the glass between them. "You look tired, like my husband before he left." The words landed heavier than the porcelain cup in the lonely CEO's hand. He hadn't realized his exhaustion was visible, hadn't realized anyone was watching him at all. If you've ever felt invisible in a crowded room, if you've ever carried success that still felt hollow, stay with this story until the very end. And if it touches something inside you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because stories like this are meant to be shared. He had chosen that corner table because it faced the street, because watching strangers hurry past made him feel less alone. People knew his name in boardrooms, knew his face from magazine covers, but here he was just another man with dark circles under his eyes and a phone that wouldn't stop vibrating with problems he no longer cared to solve. When she spoke, he looked up, startled, and saw a young woman standing with a small tray in her hands, her cafe apron dusted with flour. Her eyes were kind but tired too, the kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, realizing how personal it sounded. "I didn't mean to, people just, they look different when they're about to lose something." She gestured to the empty chair across from him. "May I sit for a minute? My break just started." He nodded without thinking. Something in her voice felt familiar, like a memory he couldn't place. As she sat, rain traced long lines down the glass behind her, and for a moment neither of them spoke. Silence, he realized, didn't feel awkward here. "My name is Sarah," she said. "I used to sit at windows like this with my husband. He loved watching people. Said it reminded him that everyone is fighting something." "I'm Daniel," he replied, surprised by how strange his own name sounded when spoken without a title attached to it. She smiled faintly. "You look like someone who hasn't slept in days, Daniel." He almost laughed. "Try years." She didn't pry, didn't ask what he did or why he was tired. Instead, she told him about the cafe, how she worked mornings and evenings, how the smell of coffee still reminded her of her husband because he used to bring her breakfast in bed even when they had almost nothing. They were young, she said, and poor in the way that feels temporary when love fills the gaps. He got sick, she continued, her fingers tightening around her cup. Not the kind you fix with medicine. The kind that steals time. Near the end, he'd sit just like you are now. Staring, but not really seeing. He was tired, not of life, but of fighting. Daniel swallowed hard. He had buried himself in work when his own life began to fall apart. After his marriage dissolved quietly under the weight of ambition, after nights alone in penthouses that echoed. He had built an empire to outrun loneliness, only to find it waiting at every finish line. "Do you ever get angry?" he asked, surprising himself. "That it happened to you?" Sarah nodded. "All the time. But anger is heavy. Some days I choose to put it down so I can breathe." Her break ended too soon. She stood, offered him a small smile, and said, "Take care of yourself, Daniel. Tired people forget they're allowed to rest." Then she walked away, leaving him with cold coffee and a warmth he hadn't felt in years. He came back the next day. And the next. Sometimes they talked for minutes, sometimes only exchanged smiles through the glass. Slowly, pieces of their lives unfolded. He told her about the pressure, the expectations, the nights he wondered what any of it was for. She told him about learning to live with absence, about grief that came in waves, about choosing hope on days it felt impossible. One evening, the cafe lost power during a storm. Candles were lit, and the room glowed softly. Daniel watched Sarah laugh with a child whose hot chocolate had spilled, watched her kneel to wipe it up without frustration, and something inside him cracked open. He realized he had been chasing success to feel alive, while she had lost everything and still managed to live. "I used to think rest was weakness," he admitted as thunder rolled outside. "That stopping meant falling behind." "And now?" she asked. "And now I think stopping might be how you remember who you are." Challenges didn't vanish overnight. Daniel still faced ruthless competitors, still battled the emptiness that crept in when the cafe closed and silence returned. Sarah still had nights when grief tightened her chest and mornings when smiling hurt. But they learned to sit with each other in the tiredness, to share it instead of carrying it alone. Months passed. Daniel made changes, real ones. He stepped back from deals that stole his peace, invested in people instead of numbers. He funded community cafes like Sarah's, places where strangers could become witnesses to each other's lives. Not because it looked good, but because it felt right. On the anniversary of her husband's passing, Daniel sat beside Sarah at the cafe window. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. When she finally spoke, it was a whisper. "I think he'd be glad I met you." Daniel looked at her, rain falling softly outside, and realized something simple and powerful: tired people don't need fixing. They need understanding. They need permission to rest, to heal, to begin again. If this story reminded you that even the most exhausted hearts can find light through human connection, take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach the people who need them most. And remember, sometimes all it takes to change a life is noticing someone through a cafe window and choosing to sit down.